All right, a couple of you have already told me that I went way too fast in my first video on how to use this spreadsheet. So I thought I would make a second one and I would go a little bit slower. Okay, a couple of things to know is the fact that if you have students that have a STAAR score of 0, they are not met. These are the students that were scheduled to take STAAR last year and did not. It may be the students who opted out because of COVID. It may be the students who decided that they just didn't want to test STAAR. It may have been that they were absent, but they still get a not met score in the system. So those students are a part of your data because they do have a performance level. Okay, so you can either hide them or you can actually count them. Okay, so all else I'm going to do is once I open up my spreadsheet, I'm going to clear it up. And so when I open my spreadsheet, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go to data, and I'm going to go over here to filter, and I'm going to put on my filter. I got to make sure that I'm clicked somewhere within the spreadsheet and not over outside of the data. Okay, so now filter it. When I filter it, remember that these two columns are STAAR and these are our interim. These two columns are STAAR and these are our interim. I gave you the STAAR percent score as reference. I did not give you the interim percent score because remember that the percent score translates into a scale score, and that for the scale scores, the percent did not always equate out to the same scale score because it depended upon if you were on the high, medium, or low track. So how I see this chart being used is the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to go to my math performance levels for STAAR, and I'm going to filter by color, and I'm going to go to the dark green. Down here in the bottom left, that tells me that I had 101 students that scored masters on the 2021 STAAR. Okay, so I'll make a note of that. So I've got 101 that scored masters. I'm going to come over here to the column that says masters, and I am going to click on here, and again I'm going to filter by color, that dark green, and that tells me out of that 101 that interim is predicting that 46 of them will score masters. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and I'm going to clear this, and I'm going to say clear my filter. That brings everybody back. So now for this, if I want to see who is close, I can now go here and I can filter by the colors, and I can now sort this. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to use this Z to A, and I can see that these students are pretty close to that 50% mark because Cambium says at 50% or greater, that's the performance level that they will probably get. So I can see that these students are probably the ones that I can work with a little bit more and get them up to masters so they can repeat their masters. These students, they probably won't be able to get back up to masters this year. Okay, so now I'm going to come up here and I'm going to clear my filter. And then I'm going to come over here to my STAAR math performance levels, and I'm going to filter by color, and I am going to go to my light green. When I go to my light green, that gives me all the students that scored meets last year in math on the 2021 STAAR. I have 84 students that scored meets, and so I'm going to come here to the meets column on interim, and again I'm going to filter by color. And that tells me out of that 84, I have 51 that are predicted to score meets. So I can do the same thing. I can go back to this filter, and now instead of the green, I can pick white. And when I pick white, I'm going to again go up here to my sort Z through A because I'm in my data tab, sort Z through A. And these are the students that are pretty close to 50%. So I can now schedule those students for a little bit more intensive targeted remediation to be able to get them back up to meets. Okay, so I'm going to clear my filter. If I go to my not meets, then I'm going to go to my red, and here I don't have a red, so I'm going to say who's coming out of not meets. and who's coming out of not meets are those that are in my approaches colors. So I have 55 of those students, 55 out of my, I forgot to note, so I can clear my filters. I had 160 that were not meets. So I come here and I filter. Out of those, 55 of them are scheduled to score approaches. Okay, now let me come here, and for some reason these dashes actually got colored. I don't know why, but there's not that many of them. So if you want to see how many you have that did not take the interim, you had one. Okay. All right, so I can again come here like I did before, and now I can sort my data on those who did not score approaches, which means they are at the not meets. And I can sort them by score. So these students had a 46% chance of scoring approaches. That's below the cutoff of 50, but I can probably get most of these students up to get approaches on their STAAR test. Okay, so I can clear that. And I can go through that same process by going over here to my reading STAAR scores, performance levels, and I can sort by color. Again, go to my masters. I have 81 students who last year on STAAR scored masters, and I can come over here and I can do it by color again. And 37 of those students are predicted to repeat their masters. All right, I hope that helps, and I hope that by slowing down my explanation, that gets you a little bit more clarity on how to be able to use this. And yes, I did hide the students' names to make this easier to record, but you'll have your students' names so you know which students to pick and which students to intervene with. All right, I hope that helps.